You have to have a certain positivity against negativity. That's the only action you know. What is real positivity feel like, looks like? So it's the same thing. We want to start what is your wish? And then we also think about your outcome.
Very warm welcome and good
Okay.
morning from Hong Kong. I'm super excited. I'll be speaking to two best-selling authors today who have recently published a new book here in Hong Kong, which is called You Lead You. Joining me today is Elaine and Sook. Very warm welcome, and thank you for coming onto the show. Looking forward to discussing your book with you guys this morning. Hey, I might just kick off with a question from you first. Tell us about your book. Why did you guys write it?
Great. First of all, I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Aaron. So happy to be here. Yes, our book, You Lead You, it's how should I say? It's really a different kind of a leadership book because, we've all been exposed to the traditional leadership model, the top-down approach. But Sook and I, in our experience, we felt that in order to be a true leader, we really need to be a leader for ourselves, because after all, who is really leading us but us, really? So over the years, based on our experience, we have developed some techniques and tools to help people realize that these areas, these techniques, these tools would help us to empower us, to build up our ways to lead ourselves so that we can be led by our own voice, be led authentically, so that when we become our true leaders, we can then be successful in our outer life. After all, it's really an inside job. Sook, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you said it so beautifully. So I save my time for the next.
I've written a couple of books myself in the past couple of years, right? And writing a book is never easy. And knowing that both of you guys have your own full-time job, right? And also co-authoring the same book. Do share your experience. What was it like, writing this book, and how was the journey?
In a way, I started very quite easy because Elaine Chung had already started a certain idea. So I was like a free load in the beginning. Then more I think about the book story, I want to talk about people like me or like Elaine who had a lot of failures and experience that I could probably share in a book in a way people can use as a signpost. So you don't have to follow exactly what is written, but you are your own master of your universe. So you could just pick it up, what you wanted, you can even subtract it. So what helped me to continue this long journey about a year, because I had a very good accountability partner. Elaine was my partner in a way I can bounce off. There was we call psychological safety. I could say some silly stuff and she could, build on that. So I think that was good. So if you want to write it, of course, you do write your memory in some journals, but also get a very good accountability partner who can bounce off your idea. And also there is like a little, carrot and stick behind without saying.
There's someone to give you a whip every now and then.
Yes.
Yeah, gently. No, I echo a lot
Yes.
on what you just shared. Elaine and I used to be colleagues, and my memory of Elaine is she's this go-getter. She gets things done.
Thank you. Yes, I completely echo with what Sook said as well. And Sook was my accountability partner as well. I think it's really important that we have that whenever we embark on a project. And I must say that it was really fun working with Sook because, first of all, we both have this great desire to want to use this book as a tool to help people realize that they have the power to steer their own ship, to steer their own life, that really it is an inside job, that they have the answers to their solutions. And we really want to be the part of it to bring out these tools that we know, that we've learned, that we know that works, to let people know, to help people. So at first, when we were writing together, remember we used vision boards and all the notes. We had so much fun, throwing these techniques out. And then later on, as we've got the ideas, as we've got these techniques, as we know what the book is about, then we started writing. Yes, that bit was a bit challenging because it's challenging to juggle work and life and writing. But it's just as what the book says, that, if you set your goals and if you are taking responsibility for your life, and you have the clarity and the awareness of your desires, and you would take actionable steps. And after that, then you would, have more clarity, because more action breeds more clarity. And this momentum will keep you going until you reach to your desired goal. And so I'll use this example of our writing, of, juggling many things and yet still be able to write. It's something that the tools that we've used to help ourselves, and it's the same tools that we're sharing to other people, in the hopes that other people will also be able to make a difference in their life.
Yep. No, that's fantastic. The examples all you've given, like taking little steps to make sure you really achieve your dream. I think that those actions, those little steps are really super important. I know that's framework in your book, and it's called GRA3CE. I don't know whether I should call it Grace or I should just spell out like that. Do share what your framework is and how people can best make use of it.
Sure. Yes. I call it grace too, because at the beginning, once we got these components gathered in and we thought, wow, you lead yourself with grace. And it just made sense. What it is that it's really like a mnemonic to help people remember these segments in the books. The different sections of the book have different themes. For example, G is setting goals, because of course goals leads you to achievements. So the techniques that we have in the goals part is not the traditional, pen down your goals. It's really about, yes, you've got your goals, but what are the other factors underneath, like your obstacles or your fears, that is preventing you from wanting to embark on your goal or even to acknowledge your goals. The R is really to remind us that we need to take responsibility for our life. And then A, in the beginning, it was really action, because once you've set the goal and you've got taking responsibility, you've got to take action, or else that is just a dream. And it remains as a daydream if you don't take action. Now, but then we realize that as we take action, sometimes we may have fears about taking action, or there may be other emotional issues that we're all different. We all have something underneath that we need to be clear about. So we became realizing that in order to take clear, achievable, successful actions, you need to have awareness, and you need to have acceptance of who you are. You need to have awareness of what you can offer for yourself and your circumstances, your fears, your desires, etc. So the A is really a trifactor: awareness, acceptance, and actions. Then, of course, I said earlier, action breeds clarity, and more clarity breeds more action. So C is for clarity, to really understanding yourself better, leads you to greater knowing. And last but not least, E is for energy, because after all, our health and well-being is what fuels us to continue to take the action. Now, although it sounds linear, like GRA3CE, but it's something that we feel it's not linear. It's all components. It works together. And we really feel that the techniques within these themes would be able to help all of us to become a true, authentic, self-inspired leader. Sook, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think when we start with the grade 3CE, and we looked at the internet, what does grace means? And usually it's a very Christianity oriented. Then we came up with the action is not good enough. To make an action, people need to understand why I'm making that kind of action. We have done quite a number of goals. Every year we come up with a resolution. I'm just wondering, our audience, how many times you are successful on achieving that goal? So that goal has to be a little bit different to create your action, the feeling of want to do something. So that's why our goal is a little different than SMART goal, GROW goal, where we normally use for performance. So this is not a performance. This is about, we are living in a troubled time, war and uncertainty. We may not change the world outside, but we can change what I view about my inner world. So the goal is about our kind of like, why do you want to have that goal? What makes you so happy if you achieve that goal? So we don't want to have that arrival fallacy. SMART goal, you reached a certain goal. Then, okay, now I made a 10,000, it's my goal. The next time I have to be 15,000 in order to become happier. We didn't want that. So its goal is about really what is truly your heart tells you. If you get that goal, what happens to you? What will change for you? So this is a very important start of our goal.
Yes. And I want to add on to what Sook said about the goal as well. Yes, although we don't start with the traditional SMART goals, our goals is really about knowing ourselves first, understanding what's our inner desires, and then from there come up with the tangible plans. But it's from then on, if people choose to use other techniques like SMART goals or other goals plans out there, and it's okay because we start with us first. And then from there, we find other techniques that works for you.
Yeah. And that's the reason we also introduce another method in our book. So I have my book, and there is a method we call WOOP. And WOOP is like a lot of people fail to make their goal because they tend to not to think about obstacle. The WOOP is a method invented by the scientist and the leadership professor in New York University. What she was saying, people tend to not thinking about negative things. No, Aaron, actually, I read one of your LinkedIn talking about toxic positivity.
Yes,
right?
yes, I did.
So,
I
so
love that.
exactly same thing. Because you have to have a certain positivity against negativity. That's the only actually what is real positivity feel like, looks like. So it's the same thing. We want to start what is your wish? And then we also think about your outcome. Then when you think about that outcome, what it could be an obstacle. Then P is the plan according to that obstacle. So I think we have quite a number of tools in our framework. So anybody want to start curious about their inner self, I think this is a perfect book for them to kickstart with.
Well, you guys have shared so many keywords that I don't even know where to start, to be honest. And to be honest, I can't agree with you guys more. And I've been doing this podcast for almost a year now. And I remember one of the episodes I did with Russian lady. Her name is Ashley. She's been in Hong Kong for many years. And one of the things she said was the future of the company often rests with the founder. And you always need to look yourself before you look outwards. She mentioned in the podcast, she went over to Tony Robbins. But at the end of the day, what helped her the most was when she found what's missing inside her. And then she visualized and created her own hero, which I think she called Ashley Dragon. Her name is Ashley. And then she created this imaginary dragon. So I mean, there's so many wisdom and knowledge and insights that you guys just share. So I just want to ask a couple of follow-on questions, if I may. You guys touch on failures. Failures is not a word that we use much in our society. When we write up our resumes, usually full of KPIs and achievements. What is your view on that? And that's number one. And second is what is the main issue when people project themselves outward, when they try to look for role models outwards, right? Why do you suggest we should start within ourselves first?
Okay, I'll start with failure first. What was it, Winston Churchill, who said that failure is not fatal, success is not final, it's the courage to continue that counts.
Beautiful.
Something along that lines. And I really echo with that because we've all failed. I've failed many times. But then each time I failed, although it was painful, but I always tell myself, let this failure not be the last thing I do. Let this be the lesson for my next adventure, for my next project, because this failure needs to be a lesson that helps me grow, that helps me achieve the next thing that I set my eyes on. And I think sometimes failure is necessary. After all, I mean, I'll use the famous example of Edison needs to fail thousands of times just to have one success that mattered. So over the years, I've learned to to be kind to myself whenever I perceive that I made a failure, and then tell myself that, was that really a failure? It only is if that is the end of the road. This failure is just a pit stop. It's just a process that we need to go through in order to be successful. And as they say, yes, you make many pit stops. It maybe makes your way longer. It may be a long way, but it's not the wrong way. So I would encourage anyone who feels that they have failed to listen, to be kind to themselves and tell themselves, it's not over. It's just a process.
Love it.
Yeah. Well said. Very well said. Yeah, I have plenty of failures in my life too. And the point that I can add on what Elaine said, how do you know this is your failure? Until you really lived well until last day, you don't know whether it's a failure or not. In my case, I have gone through very tough challenge in my life in later stage of my life. So that's why I call myself, I'm on the third phase. I would not have reinvent myself if I didn't have that failure in my life. So that really kind of like a leverage on that. But how do you get out of the failure, not consider it as a failure? What Elaine said, self-compassion. You really have to face yourself. You are the only one who knows you, really. No matter how much my husband, my children loved it, it's you who should be loving it. And second is get a social connection. Don't isolate yourself. A lot of people tend to withdraw. That's what I did it as well. But I have one friend start with Monday, knowing that she felt that I was withdrawn. What she did was a very simple message. Every Monday, she sent Monday, Happy Monday. That's all she said. Happy Monday, have a great week ahead. Now it's 242 times of Monday message that I receive. In return, I do the exactly same thing. And my friend who started, and there was a moment about 3 months we really could not do it because she was in cancer treatment. Without knowing whether she is back or not, I keep sending that Monday message. And both, she helped me and I helped her. Just continue with the social connection. So failure is failure only when you are thinking truly you failed. There is no other way. So be kind, get a social connection, and build yourself out.
Now, that's an interesting point that you made there about withdrawal and keeping that active relationships and always be thinking about, paying for doing something for other people. And, one day or another, these nice things will return to you. I love, this 242 times Happy Monday that you've been sending is terrific. In another episode, I spoke to an Aussie guy. His name is Michael Crossland. So he got diagnosed with late stage cancer from the age of 11 months, right? So his mother went through a very tough period, had to go through death counseling every single week, right? And then he called her his rock. And so Michael does many things to keep himself sort of happy, content, and whatnot. And one of the things that he does, which is very similar to the example that you share, is that every day he would text 4 to 5 people that are close to him and just to say very nice things to them, right? You never know, right? Just because you had a very tough life lesson or failure, that could be an inspiration to someone else. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. That is so true.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Aaron, you might receive my Monday message
Go ahead
from
and
now
spam
on
me.
too.
Yeah. I must say they're wonderful because I get them too every Monday, and it really cheered me up on a Monday
we all
morning.
got to show up more with
Yeah.
good intentions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes.
Who should
show
read
up.
your book?
Yeah.
You mentioned, so I've learned at least 2 things now: the GRACE, the GRA 3CE framework, and also the WOOP, right, framework. Should visualize all the challenges along the way and not all the rosy pictures that someone promises us, right? Yeah, whom is your book for and who should read it?
For me, I think the book is for anyone who desires personal growth and is willing to take action to achieve it. And I really hope that the book will help, people who read it to develop their authentic, inner inspired leadership style. And irrespective, it doesn't matter where you are in the company or where you are in life or what you're doing. We want readers to know that you can't be a leader for anyone else unless you are your own leader. So we really want readers or people who wants to make a difference, people who don't want to just be in the status quo, to read the book, to become their leader, to inspire themselves, to empower themselves, to make changes.
Yeah, so top it up with what Elaine said. What is this pragmatic way to people can use this Grace 3CE? There was someone asked us, okay, I work in my company and I have a very bad relationship, poor working relationship with my boss, so-called managing up. So what can I do? If I read this one, what can I do about it? So we refer it to looking at page 15 of our book. We're talking about responsibility. In responsibility, what is said is very simple. You have a choice. Whenever something stimuli happens, you have a choice to take that with what you want to do about it. So you have space to think about it, what I want to do. And what is it in me that I'm also causing this spiral of bad relationship? So I like people to look into it. You have a choice to making that relationship work. Sometimes you have to negotiate your rights. Sometimes you have to honor the other person's right. So you are responsible to make a choice by creating space between stimulus and action. Then it becomes response. When you can respond, you have wisdom and choice to make what you want to change the situation. So I like people to use that frame according to your need at the time. Yeah.
Early on, Sook, you mentioned about you went through a challenging period later in life, and to a point that you were finding yourselves withdrawing from these social connections, right? I want to talk about social media. Since you talked about withdrawal, when people withdraw, some people tend to have a tendency to spend more time on social media. Do you consider social media a good tool to reconnect in building real relationships? Or are you more referring to having face-to-face time with someone that really care about you? So how do you combat against withdrawal? And how should people think about social media when they're going through a tough time?
Yeah. What can you control within yourself? Social media is good if it serves your purpose. But if you are consumed by social media compared with other people, of course, that's not a good use of social media. Best thing is when you have somebody that you can talk to, whether it's by WhatsApp or in real person or have a coffee chat, that is great. But social media also a way of meeting the new different kind of people. For me, entering social media was one of the toughest time of my life, and I had to make a decision. Because when we write this book, Elaine and I, what we feared was, oh my gosh, imposter syndrome. Are we good enough to write this book? Number one. Second, do we want to be found out by other people?
Yes.
So I only started my social media last year, but more I push up my content because I know why I want to write content. It's not for everybody. I want to have a force for good. If I write a good content, somebody see there is a little relevance. Somebody can get a little bit of idea from here. That matters because I have a purpose of writing. It's not for selling. Maybe one day I will sell too. That I still need another courage to go there. But at the moment, I would love to connect with the people, share what we know, what we talk about it, what kind of benefit that we can give to people. That's just give us such a purpose of writing going into social media.
That's beautiful. I actually took a picture when I went over to the bookstore. It's a bit of reflection here. But I will post up a link after this episode if anyone wants to pick up A copy of the book is called You Lead You. It's available in several bookstores in Hong Kong. I believe it's also available online. Is that correct, guys? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it's on Amazon, and I think there are a few other online bookstore platforms like Barnes and Noble and Wall Press, and they will be available too. But I think Amazon probably the easiest.
And it's been a fantastic morning. Yeah. Thank you for joining us on this podcast. I'm just gonna end this episode with 3 questions. I'm gonna throw it to you. Obviously, you guys didn't know what these 3 questions are. I'm just making this up on the fly, but I started in the last episode, and the guests seem to have enjoyed it. So so just one word. You can only tell us one word in your answer, and I'm gonna ask you 3 questions, right? Okay. So I'm just gonna start off with you first, Elaine. What is your energy level? Okay. How are you feeling right now?
Energy high, feeling fantastic. Can I be greeting, throw one more excited?
So high and excited. Okay, high and excited. So one word, why should anyone read your book?
North Star. You can find the North Star.
Clarity, which is in your GRACE framework. And can you also share one thing you think people should do more of to make our place a bit better for everyone?
Sure. For me, I think if it's one thing that's most important is to take responsibility for your life. What does that mean? It means that whenever we have a desire to complain, blame, and shame, complaining about things, blaming others or blaming self, or shaming ourselves with something wrong like failures, then stop right there and look at it and take responsibility for that and be kind to yourself. Because after all, it's always an inside job. It's nothing out there that you need to fix, but it's back where you are.
That naming and shaming era, super important. Sook, anything else you want to add to that? Just one thing.
It's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to be not okay.
That's interesting. I was saying to a friend just last week, I think perfection is a disease. Perfection is in a way is your ego telling other people that they need to do it your way and follow your way.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, definitely.
Well, if we have a time, we could talk about it. But in the future, I hope we have another chance. The reason people, believe on perfection is one of the best way to cure is because they tie to the wrong identity. Being a smart, being a number one, getting the 100%, that's not your real identity. That's not you. So you tie to the wrong identity. So I think if you start to break that mold, I'm okay to be 85%. I'm okay to be plus. That's okay. That's the way you can change it. But that we can talk about next time. It's a long way.
Plenty more to talk about.
I want to add that, back to the book, one of the things that we talk about is clarity, understanding what motivates us, what's our desires. So for perfection, we all have this. We expect so much of ourselves. We expect us to be perfect. But if you look at really understand why is that a need for approval? Because that is what we want. We want that approval. And then we look at further underneath this. Well, why do we need this approval? Do we not approve ourselves? And that's why we really need to turn inside and look at what is it we need to do to give us our approval. Because once you approve yourself, then you feel like the lust and the desire, that hankering of outside approval will diminish if you give yourself that approval. So again, it goes back to that inside job that I was talking about.
There's so much more we can talk about. The approval topic they just mentioned. Since young, we grew up in an environment where we're constantly, getting pressure to get approval from parents, and then they went from getting approval from parents to approval from peers, from colleagues to friends, right? So much more to talk about, and I know we can do a part 2 of this podcast. Maybe we should schedule a time to do that.
I hope so.
I hope so.
Definitely. I look forward to that.
All right. Thank you again, guys. I hope you guys have a beautiful weekend. Today is a Friday, and I'm looking forward to receiving your Happy Monday message on next week. So.
Thank you so much.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Thank you so much, Aaron.